Coming up, exploring Disney's Spaceship Earth. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
All right, John, this week we are going to talk a little bit about Spaceship Earth and just go over the experience of it, the ride itself, the history, the future, just everything to do with Spaceship Earth. This is a totally Spaceship Earth episode. We are just dedicating the entire episode to that attraction. So we are going to start with a discussion about, and a brief history, at least, on Spaceship Earth. And Spaceship Earth was created by Imagineer John Hench. He was a legendary Imagineer and artist who started with the Walt Disney Company in 1939. John, the guy was with the company for 60 years, and he still did Imagineering at the park.
Yeah, nowadays, most people stay with a job about 2 years max and just jump from job to job to job. So, although back then being an Imagineer must have been pretty amazing. So I don't think I would ever leave. Imagine creating something like Spaceship Earth. Why would you ever? Bringing something that no one could even imagine existing into reality. That's not a job I would leave.
I agree. I mean, and he must have loved it because he was with the company for 60 years. He didn't retire until 2004. So as you can imagine, he was involved in not only some of the early animation at the studio, but also as an Imagineer, just crucial to the creation and development of so many rides, including, Splash Mountain, the Haunted Mansion. I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on and on. He was many of the main iconic parks, Hench was involved with. And most people that are uber Disney fans know the name John Hench. So
yeah, Disney executives probably have his name on a list of get rid of all his stuff. Otherwise, people compare your stuff, new stuff, to how good the old stuff was. It's better.
Right.
I think we should probably get rid of all this stuff. But yeah, I've got a few pictures up here that I've never even seen before of what it looks like inside Spaceship Earth. And my goodness, that is some of these things are just amazing. That like the way that it's just laid out, that there's an actual ride in there, and how big that is. So.
It's amazing. And the fact that he was the project director, the design director, and worked closely with everyone, the architect, the engineer, architect and engineer. The main one was a guy named Wallace Tutt. He helped design the geodesic sphere that houses the attraction. And as we're looking at these pictures, I think that's amazing that they did that framework and actually, matching up all those triangles and everything. It truly is like a matched up geodesic sphere made up of the triangles of the material. I don't know if it's glass. It might be plexiglass, right? Or something along those lines.
Glass. That would, I think they'd be concerned that would break, but yeah, I have to say, I've said before, when I went to Disney World, I was not a Disney movie fan. I was not I could probably count on one hand the number of Disney movies I've ever seen at that point in time and stuff. Now that I had a daughter, I've seen an awful lot of them, so things have changed. But at that time, I could not believe how impressed I was seeing Spaceship Earth and actually, going inside of it. It was really, really amazing. And I was just there last week, and it's still amazing. I find myself staring up at it, just thinking, I can't believe that, that this actually exists. So just a very impressive architectural structure. So
Well, it's really super rare for, the main icon or weenie of a park to be an actual attraction. And at that, especially when Epcot opened, this attraction was pretty much one of the main attractions at the park. Well, I dare say the main attraction. It was the one that everyone was looking forward to going on. And they put it right at the beginning of the park. So, it's pretty cool, and not only design but where they decided to put it. It was unconventional and just a really really cool idea. Uh, One of Hench was also involved in the creation of the ride's elaborate sets, the audio animatronic figures, and the special effects. And one of his most notable contributions to the entire attraction was the development of the original storyline, which took guests on a journey through the history of human communication and technology. Hench worked with a team of writers and historians to create a compelling narrative that was both educational and entertaining.
yeah,
So,
that's another part that really struck a nerve with me when I went there because not only was it unbelievable to see, an unreal experience, it was literally teaching me things too at the same time. And I don't think there's many people left who enjoy learning, but in this particular methodology, I sure do. Like, man, it. I thought it was amazing. So, and I know the part that's not there anymore. One of my favorite parts was the downward hill where they go through
yeah,
the future. Well, this is the time I went to. We'll talk about the versions, but
yeah.
I was at the version where it was a futuristic classroom, the city of the future, the communication, and a lot of that stuff came true too, which tells you how smart the Imagineers were. Like basically, they predicted FaceTime and the internet and all. This ride was built before that, and they showed what it would be like, and all that stuff. It came true in the end. Like I think all of it did for the most part. So just
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I believe when you would have experienced the attraction would have been the second version. And
Yeah, Jeremy Irons version.
yeah, that was it. So
That
yeah,
was my time.
we'll talk about that then a little bit later. Um, why is this attraction so beloved among Disney fans? Well, the ride creates a timeless blend of education, nostalgia, design, and technology. And because it is set at the main entrance to the park, it's the first thing that you really encounter, right? I mean, you can see it from the parking lot as you approach the gates. I mean, you can't miss the attraction itself. You get in there, and then all of a sudden, people call it the golf ball. They call it what they will, but they don't
You can see
really
it all over.
realize.
You can see it all over property too.
You
Actually,
can
it's
absolutely.
amazing. I've already been driving down like 429 the highway, and I look over. I can see Spaceship Earth in the distance. You go to downtown Disney, look off the parking garage, you can see Spaceship Earth. You go to eat at the Coronado, the restaurant on top of the Grand Destino, and there's
Mhm.
Spaceship Earth. It's pretty cool that you can see it from everywhere. But
Well, that's what, and again, I emphasize the fact that this is something that you can see. Most parks will just put something up to grab your attention, create space, give you a certain mix of depth. And in this particular case, this thing's an attraction, and that's pretty unique to a lot of parks. So I think that's a lot to do with why people really love the attraction itself, because of, like you said, you can see it everywhere. It is an attraction. It's a very good, timeless attraction, and a lot of care put into that thing. So from the standpoint of the first version, John, I wrote it, the original version of the attraction. It blew me away when I was a kid. It was the first attraction in Epcot I experienced. And I just couldn't believe. I mean, here is an attraction, a ride talking about the future, talking about the past, all those things. And the animatronics were so beyond anything I had seen. I was just dazzled by it.
Well, I think that's why when I first went on it, what caught me was the communication in the future. And man, like I said, now it turns out they were right about most of it. But at that time, it was just amazing to see. And like I said, I always say I miss getting excited for the future at Epcot because, when you were a kid and went on this, you should have got off and said, "What movie is that? I never want to ride it again unless I already know the story and movie. I'm not interested." So,
Right, exactly.
and I think why it's such a great ride too is because it is void of intellectual property, movie references. It's absolutely positively none of that. And so the only place you can enjoy Spaceship Earth is if you go to Spaceship Earth and experience it. Like that's, I know now we have YouTube and all that, but back in the day, you needed to experience it. It's the only way you're ever going to know what it is. So,
Right. Okay, so we are going to talk about the ride experience today. We're going to talk about the technology behind the attraction itself. We'll go over a little bit of the history and future of Spaceship Earth, and we'll talk about Spaceship Earth's impact on pop culture. But first, we're going to start out with the ride, and that's really what everyone can see with their eyes and experience, So, and we are first and foremost an experience podcast. So let's jump right into that. The ride starts with the queue, of course. And the first thing you see in the queue is the large mural on the front of the loading area. And it depicts human progress throughout history. John, you've taken a lot of pictures and video of that mural. What does that do for you? What does that mean to you?
well, for me, it's mainly just nostalgic because that was there ever since the first time I went there. And again, it's kind of like a preview of what's coming up on the ride. Like it goes from cavemen to you know, uh, guys in spacesuits floating around. So, and again, the ride is not so much like that now as it used to be, but
Right.
it's still, it's close enough, I guess, that they never bothered to change it. So, and yeah, I love that that mural. I would buy that if I could. That would look great hanging on my wall. Not the full size one, obviously, but
Yeah.
just a print of it would be great. Like maybe one of these days at the art festival, somebody will do that. That would be pretty cool. So. And
Yeah, that
yeah,
would
I've
be.
I've done countless videos and pictures just walking up the iconic queue, walking towards the building. As you're walking up, you can smell the Spaceship Earth smell and the cool breeze of air conditioning coming out, and just you can hear the narrator talking about the ride, like you can actually start to hear it right around where the mural is as you're walking in.
Yeah,
It's
right.
very nostalgic sound, So
Something that always stuck to me or stuck with me approaching that mural is the fact that this attraction, up until, 5 years ago, was always sponsored by somebody, right? And I always remember, probably the majority of the time I visited Walt Disney World, it was sponsored by Siemens, but it was sponsored by a lot of other companies over the years. Siemens is something that really strikes me because I used to do work at a company for them, so it always, it was a familiar logo. Let's just say that. All right, once we get past the mural, we enter the boarding area where the guests board the ride vehicles, which are supposed to be time machines. They're small two-person cars, and really it's just like it's a train of cars, let's face it. So, I mean, while where you enter is two persons, there's somebody behind you too in that same ride vehicle. So, you travel along a track.
It's a great omni.
Yeah, it's an omni mover.
Yeah, it's a great omni. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and the cars are equipped with audio systems that allow guests to hear the narration. As the vehicle enters the pre-show area, you're asked on a screen in front of you to answer a few questions. A picture is taken, and that will come into play later on. From this boarding area, we go on to the pre-show. Now, John, this pre-show has changed many times over the years. And as of right now, it's basically just the video screen with the cavemen fighting off a mammoth, or fighting a mammoth. And the point of that when it comes to communication is Dame Judi Dench, the current narrator, so eloquently puts it, is that this is how communication really began amongst early man, on the hunt. And it allowed for these early people to hunt as groups. And that's really the point of this video. What do you think of the video, the screen? And it always seems kind of dark to me.
Well, lately, and this is the last few times I've done it, I don't know if it's, I'm always recording things, and lately I have been able to see the screen. Like this recording that's on the screen right now is from like 2020. I haven't done a wide format one in years, but with my new iPhone, or I think the iPhone 13, they turned up the screen enough, and the iPhone compensates enough that I've been able to see it really well lately, and you'll see it. And right now on the screen, you can't see it at all.
Can't see it.
This is what you're talting about. This is what it looked like for a long time. But I do think it's been like that. There, I can make out a mammoth, but it's definitely hard to see. And a lot of times I would ride this ride after, in the middle of a hot summer day on vacation. And by the time you get here, your eyes are not adjusted enough. Well, if you're old like me, your eyes will not adjust that quickly. So it makes it a little harder to see.
Right. I do love the fact that they kind of have the mists of time, there on the screen and everything. But I wish that maybe it was lit up a little bit better. If it is currently, great.
I think it is. I think it's been adjusted a little bit because, like I said, I have some video of it that is really clear. So, like, strangely clear. Like,
yeah, I mean, earlier versions of this particular part of the attraction had a little more detail, and it had some more other figures through time, and maybe we're a little less specific on early communication, and kind of previewed the ride itself. But anyways, once we get past the hunt on the screen, we travel to ancient civilizations. The ride takes guests back in time to the dawn of civilization, where we see scenes of ancient communication systems such as hieroglyphics and cave paintings. We see audio animatronic figures of famous historical figures such as the Phoenician sailor and the Greek philosopher. On the screen right now is the cave paintings that we see on the attraction to start out this section, and then we travel on to Egypt and Phoenicia.
Yeah, a little side note, during the most recent update, they added animation to the cave paintings. So I thought that was a cool little touch, where they used to have the people making cave paintings, and now if you look closely, you'll see the paintings moving around and then freezing again. And I thought that was a cool little addition they did at that time.
That is cool. This is where we also experience the famous line about the alphabet, thank the Phoenicians. Yeah. People making t-shirts and all kinds of stuff with that.
Yeah, whenever I post a video, I get a lot of that.
Yeah. Do you thank them as you go by? Do you say thank you? And that's because you're filming, John, when you're going by there. All right, then we travel to the Middle Ages section. The ride continues through the Middle Ages, where guests see scenes of medieval communication, including the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. We see audio animatronic figures of historical figures such as Da Vinci. Now, after the Phoenician scene, and that's what we see on the screen right now, we're still kind of traveling from ancient civilization to the Middle Ages. You do have that Greek section. You have Rome, and everything that happened in Rome, including, I believe, the Rome is burning scene, right? So
I missed the Jeremy Irons one, where he said like north, south, east, and west, all roads led to Rome, and you could see the little carriages back in the background, all rolling around. So
yeah, that was
and then next is the burning one, which is the iconic smell. So
right.
Again, if they ever get rid of that smell, it's going to be such a loss. But
yeah, I totally agree. I actually have several candles that have that smell, or try and mimic that smell a little bit. And I love that part of the ride. And I also love how afterwards it talks about how some of the writings were saved, by different cultures. So we were able to still have some of those things recovered. And you see a lot of those scenes on the attraction as we're looking on the screen right now. You see here monks, writing script, and I'm assuming maybe even the, pages of the Bible. But here we are now traveling to the Middle Ages, where we see the printing press. Gutenberg's printing press.
I always wondered, though, it was probably from people standing up. They used to have a hidden Mickey on the monk that was asleep, and with the pen in his hand. On that page, there would be a hidden Mickey on the page, and I bet a lot of people stood up, like trying to see it, and eventually they're like, "We just got to get rid of that because we're not putting lap bars on this thing."
Right. We are, and this part of the video, we are also seeing some of the artists. Da Vinci is here. This is the point where we see the painting in the Sistine Chapel, and the thing about this ride is, as we go through the ages, have you ever noticed everything really speeds up? It keeps getting faster and faster and faster, as if time is jumping forward,
Yeah, just like real life, it tends to get faster the further you go. So
Right, exactly. All right, from the Middle Ages, we progress through the Renaissance, which is where the paintings were. The ride takes guests through the Renaissance, where they see scenes of scientific and artistic innovations of the period. They also see the animatronic figures of famous historical figures such as Michelangelo and Galileo. On the screen now, we are traveling through the Industrial Revolution. The ride continues into the Industrial Revolution, where guests see scenes of technological advancements such as the steam engine, the telegraph. They also see animatronic figures of famous historical people such as Thomas Edison.
yeah, the guy in the radio booth used to have a cigarette in his hand too when I
Oh,
first
did
got
he?
there. Yeah, and now he's holding a pen like he's got a cigarette talking with it. So, but
Right.
yeah, this is always my favorite scene too with the uh, '70s living room because that's what
Yeah,
I love.
and Walter Concrete, or what's his name, Walter whatever,
Yeah, concrete.
Cronkite. And that is the beginning of the space age right there, where the ride takes guests through the space age, where they see scenes of space exploration and technological advancements, such as we saw in the living room, the Apollo moon landing, which, by the way, reminds me of Carousel Progress quite a bit. And the invention of the personal computer, which is what we are seeing on screen right now. Now, this is not Steve Jobs or anyone involved with Microsoft. Apparently, this character is called the Thinker. I found that in my research. I don't know if you knew that, John, but they call him the Thinker. And if you are able to see his face, which modern day you can't see his face too well, he's actually making a lot of expressions as he's looking at his computer. So, as we travel through the space age, we enter future world. The ride concludes with a look towards the future where guests see scenes of technological advancements and innovations that have yet to come. By using the information provided at the beginning of the ride, along with the picture taken, you get to participate in almost a gamification of that pops up on the screen. So you get to tailor your experience more or less with different options on the screen. They take your information and they give you an experience based on some future technologies. Before we get to that, though, as you have on screen here, John, and this is where the part that you talked about, I believe, right? That you really liked towards the end. You
Yeah,
see,
I always appreciated a planetarium, and that's basically when you get to the peak here, you are looking up at the inside of the spaceship Earth, and it they have stars and the Earth projected up there, and it has such a planetarium feel. And I know, not everybody appreciates the planetarium, but for me, I just find that amazing. Like I love the pinnacle where spaceship Earth, and you get to look back at it. And I did kind of like the older versions though. I've never been on it, but I listened a lot to, I think, Tomorrow's Child version,
mhm.
and they would have like spaceships or something, like planets like projected on the walls. Like they used to do more in here, I think. I've never been on it at that time, but I'm sure you have.
I don't really remember a lot about it, but I seem to remember in this scene. And again, I always thought of it as like a moonscape, is kind of what it reminds you of as you're looking up at Earth and the projection on the inside of the sphere. I always kind of thought it was the moon, like you were on the moon looking up and you got to see all these, the cosmos more or less. And it almost tried to make you think about what your place was in the cosmos, as somebody, as a child who really loved thinking about moon bases and going to Mars and things like that, the promise of our generation. That's what we were promised, and I used to think about that a lot, and that part of the attraction really reminded me of that. So, yeah, and this is the part of the attraction here where you do see the screen stuff. And lately, that stuff doesn't really work too well. Sometimes it takes your picture, sometimes it doesn't. I think when we wrote it together the one time, it took your picture, but I was some weird, like, I don't know, weird person or something like that. And alongside, so all it was like a
Yeah,
partial video of your face or something like that. And just be a
yeah.
cartoon character.
This technology did not age that well. It really didn't.
No.
It was pretty cool at first, but within no time at all. I mean, I could pick up my phone now and, well, just look at like what TikTok filters can do.
Yeah.
This thing looks shameful compared to that. Like my wife looked through a filter the other day and it set everybody on fire in the picture, and I'm like, and it looks so realistic. I'm like, I can't believe what a simple TikTok filter could do. And when you compare that to this, I'm like, man, they could do so much with this. And they have a jagged cutout of your face and like a stick figure going, oh, that's great. So I don't even know what this one looks like. Probably nobody if it's me. I try to put my head down if I'm recording at that time. So yeah, see,
Yeah.
I don't have any person for mine, but these things are interesting, though. I always like the one with the living room with the actual pond in the living room and the little bridge going over it. And I don't know why. I love the idea of growing grass on my living room floor and having a real pond in the house. And I'm sure it wouldn't be as great as what it looks like, but it sure does look cool, though. I like the idea of it.
Yeah, my thinking always is that it kind of they're reaching for the Jetsons motif, but I really like as he just showed when he's in his little Jetsons car, he kind of makes a motion around the mirror or around the window of the car and it brings up a screen, and it's pretty much the way it is now without drawing the screen, the screen is there. You're just not talking to somebody while your car is self-driving. Well, unless you have a Tesla, I guess. But in any case, John, the thing that was kind of ahead of its time, in my opinion, was the gamification thing, because everyone likes everything gamified nowadays, and
Mhm.
they were ahead of that curve a little bit on this ride. After we are through this part of the attraction, we go into a post show. This is after we leave the ride vehicle and you make your way towards the exit. You can either exit right through this post show area, but or play games and experience the interactive exhibits, which is what is in there. And it really features some modern advances in communication along with just illustration. When we rode this together, we actually tried that skeleton thing or whatever it was, where we were putting the organs in the body and all that. I don't know if you remember that, but
Yeah, I always enjoyed that particular one. And the games aren't bad, but again, they aged very quickly though. Like
yeah,
they were pretty cool, they were fun, and now I feel like you could do so much better. Like I said, I always compare it to apps on your phone. Like if you're going to do something, it's got to be a little bit better than what a 8-year-old could pull up on their phone and
yeah,
do. So, and
right.
it's hard to keep up now, but
Yeah, I mean, really, the technology they're using, you see better technology on a cheap Leapfrog tablet nowadays, right? So, I mean, you're right on the kid part of it, but still, it's interesting to stop and maybe look at and experience a little bit. Um, it doesn't hold up for multiple tries, though, I think. So,
no, like I said, the one that we played is one of the more fun ones because it's 3D and you're
right.
trying to learn the depth of where to drop the things and
Yep. Yep.
it's a pretty pretty cool, pretty cool part of it. And I never played the one on the floor that's like a shuffleboard, but it's a you're playing with lights and sensors. But a lot of people seem to like that one too.
Yeah, I haven't messed with that too much. Let's discuss the animatronics just briefly, John. There are over 50 animatronics on the attraction. Some of those animatronics have been in operation for over 30 plus years. In my research, I found that a lot of these animatronics have been recycled from other attractions. And many of the animatronics that haven't been recycled are cast faces of cast members, you know, the employees that work for the company. They're real people. So they're cast faces.
Yeah.
But you know, they're no, go ahead.
Oh, I actually heard that they reuse casting for I forget who, like certain presidents and things like that
Yeah.
too. And they said once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I'm like, oh, luckily
Yeah.
I haven't had that problem yet because I don't look that close. But
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually know where a few of them are. I think there's a Teddy Roosevelt one in there somewhere. But yeah, some of the animatronics have been recycled from Disneyland even, and some of the attractions they come from the Hall of Presidents, the American Adventure, and Carousel Progress. In fact, there's a Ben Franklin animatronic on there, believe it or not. See if you can figure out which one that is.
I don't want to.
I don't want to either. I think I know which one it is, though, unfortunately, so I can't unsee that every time I go through there. But with that said, a lot of times animatronics get older and they can't function according to what the attraction is that they are intended. And so they repurpose them and put them on Spaceship Earth or other rides where they can actually function for what they need them to function for on that particular attraction. And that's what they do here a lot of times. But 30 plus years, you want to talk about a great hardy technology that these things have been running for 30 years, some of them.
You know what the problem is though. I just heard a rumor that all of the animatronics are being taken out of Splash Mountain because they don't want they want to replace them with new electric motor ones
Mm-hmm.
because there's much less maintenance to do with it. So it's like an ongoing cost thing. And my issue is this may be the next ride they look at to be like, we could save a lot of money. Let's gut all the animatronics and replace them with limited motion electric motor ones. Cause you know, you could have a guy with his hand up and it just goes like this or so. It's like, hey, that's an animatronic, right? You don't need elaborate animatronics that move human like. You can replace it with cheaper ones. So I heard
Mm.
that's what they're doing. And then they said there's going to be dozens of new animatronics on Splash Mountain. But I heard, you know, most of them are going to be like critters where there's going to be like a rabbit there and its eyes will blink or something. They'd be like, there's one. And they said the same thing about Rise of the
I was
Resistance.
just going to bring that up. Yeah.
And they consider like all those stormtroopers to be, well, look, there's 100 animatronics. It's like, do any of them move? Well, one or two like go like this or click or something. Like it's like that's it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
extremely limited electronic motor movement, which is cool. But again, replacing the hydraulic ones that were made originally, you know, I'm sure you can make one just as good with electric motors, but man, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think that's the plan. So
Boy, I
I'll
hope
be
that's
lucky.
wrong. Yeah, I
And
hope that's
again, the
wrong.
next place they're gonna look is right here. They're gonna say, "Wait a minute, Spaceship Earth is loaded, and it takes a lot of maintenance to keep up on these old animatronics. We need to get rid of them."
Yeah.
So again, I think that may be a trend of the future. So
Boy, I sure hope not. I'm okay with electric if it looks the
well,
same,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the
you need
thing
electric
is,
for the new ones. I
yeah.
understand it, but
I mean, there's something about those hydraulics though that I think make semi-real looking motions. You know what I mean? So
well, I think that's part of the smell of some of these rides too. That's so
yeah,
cool. Like it's that they're you don't realize what the nostalgic smell is made of. Some of it is probably the fluid that's going inside
yeah,
the animatronics to keep them going.
yeah. Well, if you're ever messing around with your car and smell a certain familiar smell, you know that's the that could be it.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I think that is part of the, part of the deal. That is part of the smell. All right, let's talk a little bit about the technology behind the attraction. Again, as we said earlier, it is an Omni Mover. The vehicles use the Omni Mover system, which is a continuous chain of vehicles that move at a constant speed. The Omni Mover system allows for a smooth, seamless ride experience. That's debatable, by the way,
Yeah,
with guests.
sometimes it's
Yeah,
but
with
I do
with
love the Omni movers though. I don't know why. I
I
love
do
them.
too,
Everywhere they
totally.
use them, I just love it. I don't know.
Well, what's great is about OmniMover, and this next part is that it's continuous loading and it's continuous moving. So it's slow enough and easy enough to enter the ride as it's moving, quick in and out of that, and helps with the crowds and stuff. And yeah, I like the OmniMover system quite a bit myself too, John. But, yeah, so the next technology I've listed here is advanced lighting. The Spaceship Earth ride system features advanced lighting technology that creates a variety of immersive and dynamic environments. And as we're watching this attraction, they really did put a lot of care into how they light up the animatronics and light up the scenes to try and direct your attention. It's immersive because it's part of the storytelling. And man, I love that. Really
I
here
never
too, look at this Rome is burning scene.
I don't think I ever really thought about that because you just take it for granted that it feels so immersive, but the lighting has a huge effect on that. With improper lighting, none of this stuff it wouldn't look real at all.
Right.
And yeah, the realism that the lighting helps create that is something that you just normal people like me just don't think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought about it till I started doing research for the ride itself, and as we watch the ride through here, the point of view, it is a main part. I mean, it creates the atmosphere, right, John?
Yeah,
It's that's what
oh,
it
it
does.
is.
The next technology or advanced technology is the audio technology. The ride system features an audio system that delivers clear and crisp sound throughout the attraction. It is also synchronized with the ride vehicle and the audio animatronics as well to create a seamless and immersive experience. Now, as you watch videos or as you experience the ride itself, you can definitely hear Dame Judi Dench in front of you, right, and
Mhm.
behind you. But what's really cool is it's not too distracting, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
the audio and the speaker itself is directed in such a way and understated in such a way that it's personal to you. So that definitely enhances the ride itself, and also as you're going by each scene, at some point that has to reset, right? But it doesn't. It loops in a very immersive way, the sounds that come
Oh yeah.
from each
Right,
scene. So,
right here is the paper boy saying, "Extra, extra, read all
right.
about it." He's back there. I was gonna say the one that always sticks in my head too is the Rome scene because I took like 6 years of Latin, and to hear somebody speaking like basically a dead language is really cool. Like they if you listen close going by, that a Roman soldier or whatever is literally talking to somebody, and he's just talking and talking, and his hands moving, and I'm like, really, really cool little extra thing, that you
Yeah.
don't really think about. But man, I always appreciated that.
Yeah, it is cool. And they, they didn't cut the language, right? I mean, they stuck to it. So
Yeah, they
that's
did.
really cool. The next technology is the geodesic sphere itself. The sphere is a structure that is made up of a series of triangles, as we saw earlier in the exoskeleton, right? Or I guess interskeleton of the attraction. It is a series of triangles that are connected to each other. Triangles are arranged in such a way that they form a strong and stable structure. So the geodesic sphere is the largest of its kind in the world and is one of the most iconic structures at Epcot. I'm going to strike that because I think it is the most iconic structure at Epcot. And it's maybe one of the most iconic structures in any Disney park, in my opinion. So if you see an outline of this attraction, you know exactly what it is.
I was gonna say, if I were somebody like Bill Gates, I would stop wasting my money and I would build in the world's the new world's largest geodesic sphere, and that'd be my house. It would be a gigantic one, many times bigger than this. So just because I can.
Well, he would certainly use it as some kind of mind control device or
Yeah,
something.
for him it would be an evil lair of some sort. But I would try to make it just because it's cool.
Yeah. All right. The next and final technology advancement is the projection technology. Projection definitely goes hand in hand with lighting, but in this particular case, we're talking about projecting images onto walls and the ceiling of the Spaceship Earth, as we are seeing right now on our screen. The projection of the planet and our planet Earth, along with stars. The projection technology is a powerful tool that can be used to create immersive and engaging experiences as it does in this attraction. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the history and future of Spaceship Earth. One of the differences between the ride in the past has been the narrators. That has been the biggest, most notable thing in most people's minds. The attraction has featured several different narrators over the years, including Walter Cronkite, Jeremy Irons, and the most recent version, Dame Judi Dench. Each narrator has brought their own style and perspective to the attraction, resulting in slightly different interpretations of the ride's message. And that's interesting because each one of these, if you listen to them, they are different. This is not, each narrator has a different script, a different delivery. It's just different. So some people actually prefer the Walter Cronkite version. You, John, has mentioned the Jeremy Irons version. I really like Dame Judi Dench. I don't remember a lot of the Walter Cronkite when I was younger. I do remember hearing Walter Cronkite in the attraction when I was younger, because we had talked about it. My parents and I had talked about who that was. But I really like Judi Dench's voice, and so I kind of like the recent version. I did like the Jeremy Irons version as well, though.
No, I think you're wrong there.
You
Jeremy
like the
Irons
Jeremy?
is such an iconic voice. The way he the way he does it all, it's just good. So
Yeah,
but that could be because it was the first one I heard. But for me, it's still the best.
I really like it. Yeah, I love Jeremy Irons as an actor, and I do love his voice. But yeah, I do like the current version. I have to admit that. As far as the scenes, they have changed over the years. The original attraction itself focused primarily on the history of communication technology. Newer versions of the ride have added scenes that focus on different aspects of human history, such as art, literature, and culture. John, this is where I believe with the Jeremy Irons version, the ending of the ride is significantly different. I know the part where they're in the living room and there's different scenes towards the end of the attraction. Most of the beginning, or at least the middle parts of the attraction, have been fairly consistent over the years. The beginning and the end are really where I remember the largest differences.
Yeah, the end, I feel like they cut the budget or something. Or no,
Yeah.
they decided to do this screen instead. And I heard they simply put up black curtains all around, and
Yeah.
most of that stuff is still back there. They
Oh
just
my
put
goodness.
black curtains up and said to look at the screen now instead. And again, the screen is nice, but I really did love the future of what it was, and I know the future is already here for that, so it wouldn't make sense. But I would like an update that goes even further into the future. I can't think of what, but I couldn't have thought of it back then either. But the Imagineers did, so like I would love to see some kind of weird AI future, like something that we can't think of, and that would be really, really cool to see. But black
It would
curtains are
be.
nice too.
Yeah, sure. The beginning of the attraction used to have a preview of the ride itself. It wasn't the mammoth scene. I believe there were different historic figures that were presented on that screen at one time. And again, I'm just going by memory, and I remember reading a little bit of that in my research. So, um, as far as technology, that has definitely advanced and changed through the years. The ride has incorporated more advanced audio animatronic figures. The lighting effects have changed over the years a bit and have improved. The projection systems as well. Current version of Spaceship Earth features gamification at the end that we're actually looking at on the screen now. And it creates a final scene in which guests can see themselves experiencing their own future using technologies, new and future technologies, that is. And that's only when the picture takes properly at the beginning of the attraction.
I think it actually looks better when your picture's not taken, as you can
Yeah,
see.
with the
It's
cartoons, I
a
kind of
weird, a
agree.
weird static cutout of your face hovering is kind of weird. But
Yeah, I don't get that decision to put your face in that because it never looked good. But I mean, it brought a little bit of lightness, I guess, to the attraction. Maybe that might have something to do with it. There is a future to Spaceship Earth, actually a shelved future now. There was a version that was promised during one of the recent D33 meetings. I believe that was where it was at, right, John, where they talked about a
it was a
new
D23 meeting.
D23. I'm sorry, D23.
What's the
Uh,
difference?
yeah.
I was going to
I'm
say,
thinking
don't
Club
worry though.
33,
Don't worry. Bob Iger found 17 billion to spend in the future.
Yeah.
You can't really do anything with Epcot. Epcot's just it's gotta
It's,
stay how it is. So nothing you can
yeah.
do. But don't
Yeah.
worry, and he's definitely not going to cut any of that stuff. But
No, no. Um, they have shelved the future version of Spaceship Earth. They were going to change it into a more storytelling version of the attraction and perform several other updates. What it looked like to me was it was largely going to become a screen-based ride with less animatronics, but that's just what the early concept looked like. I was not crazy about the storytelling junk because that means the IP was going to be thrown in there.
well,
So
I didn't see any IP, but during the Epcot experience, I would watch that a lot, and the screen that they would show, it showed people from all over the world telling stories. And to me, it really screamed Animal Kingdom. And I was like, and it wasn't, it was just the feel of it. They used a lot of greenery, a lot of trees, and then they'd use just people like outdoors telling stories by fires, telling stories. Like it was like the history of stories. And I'm like, again, I hope it might have been good, but honestly, I was like, thank goodness for the unknown virus, so we could stop this one. That was this. I think the one good thing that came out was based on the plans that I saw for it. It looked like they put Christmas lights on some of the stuff and said, "Look, we made it new."
Yeah.
It's like just leave it alone at that point if you're going to make it worse, you know.
Yeah.
So
I'm,
hopefully in the future they'll come up with a better idea that makes more sense and put it there. But I
yeah. I
doubt
mean,
it.
if they want to add in a part or make the ride about storytelling and tie in the fact that that was early communication, particularly in Africa, Asia, places like that, Russia, those places, even the Middle East, where communication was really through story. That I could get that. I'm
Like
not sure that's where they were going, though.
inside of a geodesic sphere though in
Yeah,
Epcot, and what I can't help but think of Future World. I'm like it just did not feel right to me. I'm like,
yeah,
this is not like, I don't know. And again, it's hard for me to disconnect the Future World part of it, and put some old guy in there telling you a story about something and a dot bouncing around. I'm like, that sounds awesome at another park, but
yes,
at
yeah,
Epcot, inside of the world's largest geodesic sphere, in a place that's always been about the future, technology, human advancement. Let's just talk about stories. Yeah, stories are fun. I like
right.
stories. It's like, what about the future? We don't want to talk about that, but we can talk about some stories. I'm like, I did not, I was not a fan of it. And again, thank goodness they ran out of money for that. But, they've
Yeah.
got it for a lot of other stuff, but they ran out of it for Spaceship Earth and Epcot in general. Just they ran out of money for that. So,
Well, I'm
you
okay
know,
with them leaving it alone. Uh, I enjoy the ride as is right now, so it could use some updates. Let's face it, but
oh yeah, I would love them to just update the end, like take the curtains down and put something cool up there. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money, but just make the end a little different. Get rid of the screen thing. It was fun while we had it, but Siemens doesn't sponsor it anymore,
right.
and it's only going to get worse and worse with age. But the rest of it, though, you don't have to change a thing up until um, the descent is the only thing I would fix. Go
Hmm.
behind those curtains and do a little bit of work, and I think it'd be great.
Yeah, as it is right now, a lot of it's just wasted, opportunity, right? I mean, there's
Yep.
a long descent there with doing nothing, looking at some lights dangling from the ceiling. So, um, our final segment is about Spaceship Earth's impact on popular culture. And believe it or not, there has been an impact on popular culture. It is one of the most iconic attractions at Walt Disney World. So it makes sense that it would have appeared in numerous films and television shows and been featured in other media. The attraction's message of hope and unity has resonated with people all over the world. It's been praised for its educational value, which is important, John. I think we don't have a lot of educational attractions, and obviously the culture has responded to that.
I don't know. Guardians of the Galaxy teaches you an awful lot about a world that doesn't even exist. Like they tell you about how they produce energy and farming, how they feed the people, where their universities are. I mean, they go into detail on that ride, but none of it's real. But
I know.
It does feel like Epcot though. I'm like, man, I'm
It
learning something
does.
about a place that doesn't exist. I'm like, man, I don't know. It just makes me highly suspicious as to do they know something I don't know about our future? We don't have one. I'm like, what?
Well, I think
I hope we do, but man, it's getting weird.
there's a reason why it's a geodesic sphere, John. There's a portal underneath it created by that sphere that takes you to another world.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I'm
where
ready
the
to
idea
go.
came from. So it has the ability to inspire visitors to think about the future of our planet through technology. And that's exactly what you were talking about earlier, John, is that, the attraction itself inspires people, to think about technology, the future, things of that nature. I don't know that storytelling would do that.
No, that stories are made up in the past.
Yep.
They are good. They're important for the Disney company, but I don't know. Bob Chapek said it's going to be more Epcot than ever. More
Yeah.
Epcot. It's like I don't think he knew what that was
I
though.
don't
So
think he did
I don't think
either.
Iger does either. So I don't.
I
It
don't
really
either.
doesn't matter. He's
Yeah.
Iger says, "What movie is Epcot from?" And
Yeah.
again, we know what movies. We could tell him, but it was there before the movies. So I don't know.
Yeah. Spaceship Earth has also been used as a symbol of the space age. It was built in the 1980s at a time when the world was fascinated by space exploration. The attraction's design and its use of audio animatronics helped to capture the public's imagination. That is something that's missing in the attraction, John, is the space age itself. While there is a section called the space age, it's mostly just Walter Cronkite on a TV screen looking at the moon landing.
And that's what the end should be. See, we figured it out. It should
Yeah.
be Elon Musk colonizing Mars, us finally doing something real on the moon. And again, at this rate, it'll be future forever because we don't seem to be in any hurry to ever go back for any reason. So if we ever went at all at this point, but that would stay futuristic for a long time. So yeah, we thought about it. We finally figured it out. Make the end about space travel and maybe some futuristic Disney version of going to Mars, like everybody's in their hypersleep chambers and this and that. It's like another 20 years, it might be real and we'll be like, they did it again. Spaceship
Yeah.
Earth, it knows the future, Call Elon Musk in and see what this stuff's going to look like. He'd probably have fun doing that,
He probably would.
That would be an interesting thing.
He probably would.
Although right now with Disney and all their political stance nonsense, most companies are going to just back away and being like, we just don't want to get involved right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
again, I'm sure they wouldn't disagree with Disney, but they just don't want to get involved. And that's a lot of people are like that.
Well, that's what it amounts to. And you're right. A lot of those companies don't disagree with the stances that they may be taking.
Yeah.
They may feel the same way. But the response from guests, from the media, from society at large, from the government.
They always say don't talk about politics and religion.
And religion, right.
When you're not among family or whatever, it's like, and I think they talked about politics and they are a religion they're turning into. So it's getting to be a double-edged sword for them. Disney's getting to be a weird cult-like religion of they can do no wrong. Anything they do, I love. It's like, I don't think that ends well either. So
no, I don't think so.
We all need to be in the middle.
You got to watch what the content is in some of those Joffrey's drinks. So just watch out. All right. So today, Spaceship Earth is still a popular attraction. Walt Disney World, it is a reminder of our shared history and our common future. It's a symbol of hope and unity and it continues to inspire visitors from all over the world.
And that's why they need to change it.
Yeah, got to tell stories.
Hope makes people discontent with their current situation and can
Yeah,
cause problems later. You
yeah,
don't want people hoping too much.
yeah. That's right.
Forget about hope. Remember the past. Distract yourself with a story. That's better.
That's right.
For some societies, which I guess is ours now too. So
I guess. Yep. The as long as you can dance to it nowadays, I guess, sir.
well, I don't know.
Yeah. So the attraction was featured in the 1994 film The Rocketeer. It was also featured in the 2004 film The Incredibles, which I actually don't remember seeing it in The Incredibles,
I don't
but I
remember
guess it was
seeing
there.
it either. I've seen that movie several times.
Yeah, the attraction has been referenced in numerous television shows, including The Simpsons, Family Guy, and The
I've seen
Office.
it there. Yeah.
It has also been featured in music videos such as Spaceship Earth by Owl City. I have no idea who Owl City is. I've never seen that video. It might be something made up for all I know.
I've heard of Owl City. They have like these weird songs and stuff. Like when my daughter was a little kid, I had to listen to a couple songs of theirs. But since then, I never seen a video though.
Yeah, I haven't either. Spaceship Earth has even been used as a symbol of the United States in foreign films such as The Host. Now, I saw The Host. It is a horror movie. I do not remember seeing this in that movie, so it might have been on a, tchotchke or something for all I know, or a pin.
Yeah. Or even a reference somewhere.
Yeah.
Or something. Who knows?
Something like that. The geodesic sphere has become a symbol of Epcot and one of the most recognizable weenies, which is what they call, those things that attract your eyeballs for depth and perspective in a park, of the Disney parks. All right, John. So, in conclusion, do you have any final thoughts on?
They need to come up with a new word for weenies because
nowadays,
things are just too weird out there to be telling everybody to look at weenies. Back in Wolf's day, that just made sense, but now it's like, don't say that anymore.
We've got to be really, really careful saying that because you live in Florida and the governor may come after you for that.
Right.
You never know. Yeah. So, all right. So we went over the ride itself, John. We went over the past and present and the future of the ride, the pop culture, the technology. One thing that really strikes me, John, is John Hench. The fact that the man had been with the company for so long and been involved in so many things. He was intimately involved in this attraction. In my opinion, this is probably one of his masterpieces.
Yeah, it really is. And I just want to mention that I haven't been going to the parks as much lately, and I'm getting a little bit going through a disinterested time in the theme parks, I guess, for me. I'm sure it's only temporary, but I can tell you I've lived here for close to 6 years now, and I vacationed here 2 or 3 times a year before that, and I have never gotten sick of Spaceship Earth yet, and I'm still not. This is like our 3rd time playing it on the screen, and I've never gotten bored of it, and I always enjoyed it, and it's, I think, one of the best, most unique rides all of Disney World. So
I would agree with that, John. I think that's a great way of putting it. I believe timeless is the word for this attraction. Yep. And every time that I am at Epcot, I can honestly say that I can only think of one time I did not ride this attraction while I was at Epcot, and it wasn't because of the plans. It was because I had to get on Guardians of the Galaxy very late in the night, and this Spaceship Earth was going to finish my night. And because the ride broke down a couple times, this was when Cosmic Rewind was new. I was not able to experience Spaceship Earth on that trip. It felt like a piece was missing from that trip. I still feel like a piece was missing from that trip because I did not get to experience Spaceship Earth. It just didn't feel complete. Even riding a new ride like Cosmic Rewind. So I vowed to never go to Epcot again without riding this attraction, other than say if it's shut down for refurb.
For me, it was always the last ride I would do on my vacation. Like if we had like a half day or something, like there'd be no question. I want to go to Epcot, and before I go back to Pennsylvania, I ride on one more ride on Spaceship Earth. It's a great last attraction, so unique, so memorable, special. I was like, so that was always my thing.
Yep, I totally get that. Totally get that. That's what I was going to do in that particular instance. All right, John. So that concludes this episode, this conversation on Spaceship Earth. On our next episode, we're going to stay in Epcot, and we're actually going to discuss Horizons. I know that's something that you've been looking forward to as well for quite a while, talking about Horizons. So I am looking forward to it too. It was always one of my favorite attractions. It's always very popular amongst Disney fans, and there is plenty to talk about with that attraction. All right, John, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, See.UO on Instagram and Facebook. I think that's about it.
All right, and you can find me at The Giant Rat, THEE Giant Rat, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. And let me just add that we would appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to this podcast, and a thumbs up on YouTube and all that good stuff. That helps get the podcast out there and helps us get some eyeballs on this thing. And it helps us know that you appreciate these episodes. And if you want to leave a comment about what your experience has been like with Spaceship Earth, what you like, what you don't like, what you hope for in the future, please do so. All right, that should do it for this episode. We will see you on the next one.